The Israeli government at the time pleaded with the king of Jordan, don't join the war. We won't do anything to you. Don't join the war. And yet, what happened? Jordan decided to join the war with Egypt and Syria, thinking that they were going to destroy us, murder us, and take over our land. The world doesn't talk about this. Jews don't talk about this.
Don't
The
know.
only reason
Yeah.
we liberated all of Jerusalem, because again, the old city of Jerusalem was under control of the Jordanian kingdom. So, in 1929, after this massacre, we didn't have to leave Hebron. But the British, who were in charge at the time, it was the British mandate, they said, oh, we don't want to protect the Jews. They basically allowed the Muslims to massacre us. I mean, there are stories, and I've read eyewitness accounts of that massacre in 1929, of British officers riding around on their horses as the Muslims were running around house to house, massacring the Jews, and the British officers did nothing to stop them.
Hello, everyone. This is another episode of Zionist Cafe, and our special guest today is Avi Abelow in a special part in Israel, actually, and he's going to tell us a lot about what is going on over there and the history, because historical insights are pretty much missing today, to my opinion, with many people. And he is very knowledgeable. He has a beautiful newsletter. How would I call it? What you send out? Is it newsletter, information, the pulse?
YouTube program, podcast, everything,
There
media.
you go. We will put the links in the description. So
Sure, the Pulse
Avi,
of Israel.
yeah, the pulse of Israel, beautiful. And I read it every time. It's great. It keeps me very updated. Avi, very shortly, who are you?
Wow, who am I?
Yeah. Do you
I
know that
am
already? You figured it out yet?
to say who am I in a short intro. I am a very blessed person, a proud Jew, to be living and raising my family in Israel, in our ancestral homeland. My wife and I have raised our family in Efrat, which is a beautiful community in the Judean hills, the Gush Etzion area of Judea, of what people call properly Judea and Samaria, what people call improperly the West Bank. So yes, I'm a very proud settler for those who understand that term, and I'm proud of that word because the Torah tells us we're supposed to settle the land. Like that's the exact word in Hebrew, nachel, to settle the land. So there's nothing wrong in being a settler. And for those who are unfamiliar, to our enemies, to our jihadi enemies, they call Jews who live in Tel Aviv settlers. They don't see any difference where we live. They don't want us anywhere. So I'm proud to call myself a settler. I have a business and a nonprofit organization focused on spreading the truth, educating via media the truth about Israel and the Jewish people today, so people understand beyond the headlines, because you really can't trust anything you read in the media, even in Jewish Israeli media. Journalists might try to do the best job they can, but they don't even have all the information to properly frame each and every story so that people around the world, especially Jews, can truly understand what is going on, especially in a day of age of sound bites and clicks. So people are not getting the correct information, and via the Pulse of Israel, that's my nonprofit organization, and then via another website, Israel Unwired, that's more newsy, our business. We try to give the inspiring truth on a day in and day out basis for Jews and non-Jews to better understand the depth of what is really going on. One to feel good about themselves if they're Jewish, strengthen their Jewish identity and pride in the Jewish state of Israel and everything going on, and not to be depressed by what otherwise they'd be hearing in the news. So that's me in a nutshell.
Wow, thank you so very much for that beautiful viewpoint. I grew up in the Netherlands. I would like to start with that. And I did indeed hear always in the news settlers, colonists, even stolen land, occupied territory. It was so loaded with a certain energy and feelings about it, that it always ended in the poor Palestinians, everything has been taken away from them. And then the West Bank is very dissociative because you don't think about Judea and Samaria. You don't, and people that don't know anything about the historical roots of Jews, they just have no clue. So to you, the honor to explain a little bit, how did it start? I believe Israel won the war in 67, and that's why Judea and Samaria became part of Israel. And what happened then? What partially created the problem of today?
Wow, God, there's so much to unpack there, but I appreciate the opportunity to help people better understand. Let's start with this. I was just in the city of Hebron, or Hebron in
Mm-hmm.
English.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to too many people in the world, Hebron is looked at as an Arabic city. But Hebron has one of the most ancient, actually, the most ancient structure to the Jewish people. And that is what in Hebrew is called Ma'arat HaMachpelah, or in English, the tomb of the patriarchs and matriarchs. Anyone who reads the Bible, and again, a majority of the world reads the Bible or read the Bible or knows the Bible stories. They know about the beginning of the Jewish people, Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Rebecca, Jacob, Rachel, Leah, right? Those are the Jewish people's forefathers and foremothers. Or as my friend Yishai Fleischer likes to say, the mamas and the papas,
Yeah. He's
right?
also a
So
great, yeah.
he's amazing and a good
Yeah.
friend of mine. He does amazing work in Hebron, it's in Judea and Samaria. It's in what people call the West Bank. And there are too many Jews in the world who believe the lies that the Jewish people, we have no connection to Hebron and that we don't belong there and that we shouldn't live there. How? How can a Jew who knows that our existence comes from the Bible, who knows that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are our ancestors, how can a Jew think that the Jewish people have no claim to the ancient city of Hebron, where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and the mothers, except for Rachel, are all buried? You can visit them. It's called the Tomb of the Patriarchs and Matriarchs. I was just there. And yet, it makes me so sad that too many Jews do not understand our own history and the connection to what's going on today with our history. And they just let the lies of the media and of the flavor of the day in society to convince them that the Jewish people have no connection to Hebron. And I like to tell people, we do not have a right to live in our modern Hebrew city of Tel Aviv, which was established in 1909, if we have no right to live in our first Hebrew city established over 4,000 years ago, Hebron.
Is that thinking
I'll
maybe infected by the way of thinking like, oh, but they took the stuff from the Palestinians, they kicked them out of their homes, or all those stories? Does that change their
100%.
logic?
But you want to know the I have one picture. I don't know if you're able to add a
Oh, yeah.
picture
Yeah.
in, but I would, while we're talking about this right now, I want people to imagine and for you to add a picture of the Dome of the Rock on the western wall of the Temple Mount.
Yeah.
Because in that one picture, it totally bursts the false narrative that the Jewish people are occupiers in our ancestral homeland. Because the Jews built the western wall of the Temple Mount because the temple stood on top, right? We all believe that. We all know that. All of humanity knows that. All the Christians know it. All the Muslims know it. The temple stood on top of the Temple Mount.
Yeah.
King Herod built the structure that is the western wall of the Temple Mount where people who come to Jerusalem come and visit. Today, you have a dome of the rock, the golden dome of the rock, on top of the foundation for the temple. How can the Jewish people be the occupiers
Yeah.
if they built their dome on top of the foundation of our Temple Mount? That one picture totally bursts the whole false narrative that it's the Jewish people who are the occupiers. No, the Jewish people built the first temple around, I don't know, 3,000 years ago at King David, and then the second temple was built around 2,000 years ago. Muslims weren't invented by Muhammad until the 7th century,
Yeah.
thousands of years later. The
Yeah.
first Muslim didn't step in the Holy Land. The first Arab, Jews were in the ancestral homeland of the Jewish people for thousands of years before Muhammad was born.
Yeah.
So that one picture of the Dome of the Rock on the Temple Mount proves who's the occupier.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the Muslims who came afterwards. They conquered and they became the occupier.
And which is
So
also very disrespectful to build a mosque on the holy place of somebody else, of another religion. Because if it the other way around, if it will be a shoe on top of a mosque, I mean, hell will be in the rest of the world, right?
correct. And then you go into a totally different topic, which we can also go into, which is how too many of us, people born in the West, have no clue about Islam. We
Yeah.
do not
Yeah.
understand Islam at all.
Yeah.
Islam is about taking over the world in the name
Yeah.
of Muhammad and trying to kill or persecute all non-Muslims. And they first go after the Jews, and they first go after the Christians. And what they do is when they conquer a country that's either Christian or Jewish, whatever, or an area, the first thing they do is they take over the holy sites of the other religions, either destroy them or convert them into Muslim sites.
Yeah.
That is what Islam has done for thousands of years since it came in the 7th century under Muhammad.
Yeah, it's another historical perspective. I read the Quran 40 years ago, 30 years ago, for that purpose. And I think, yeah, a lot of people don't know and don't want to know. That's another
They
thing.
don't want
So
to
if
know.
we go to Judea and Samaria, because there is also that story that Jews or the Israelis kicked out the poor Muslims or the poor Palestinians, right? That thing is so often in the way for people to think logically. They start to approach the whole thing emotionally. Oh, it's not nice to be kicked out. That's so many people in the world have been kicked out. But now you have also these British documents that are coming into the news that's where the British observation was saying, hey, the Jews asked the Muslims to stay and not to leave in 1948. And
Yes.
now we have the Nakba, that are totally different. Of course, there might be a few kicked out for sure. I mean, not everybody is a saint, right? But how did it go with Judea and Samaria? Because that is a story on itself. What was the amount? What happened in June 1967? And what the choices were made, what to do with the situation.
So, first of all, we, the Jewish people, have the most inspiring story of the whole world and a very emotional story. We just don't tell it. And that's the problem. And our Jewish organizations don't tell it. We're the only indigenous people who has come back
Returned.
after thousands of
Yeah,
years of exile and persecution to once again be sovereign in our ancestral homelands. We should be the poster child,
yeah,
celebrated by
yeah.
the whole Western world today that talks about human rights and indigenous rights and overcoming oppression. We overcame oppression. We're the only indigenous people in the whole world. So we have the most inspiring story and we don't tell it. Instead, we're fed the narrative that, oh, this long belonged to the Palestinians, even though people don't even know this. Palestinians, they didn't even exist in the 1950s. They didn't exist
1965,
in the
right?
1940s.
Yeah.
What? Right.
1965, we got the Palestinian movement.
Exactly. The Palestinian national identity, people
Yeah.
don't know this, was created by the KGB, by the
With
Soviet Union.
Arafat. Yeah.
Right? It
Yeah.
was a way of them trying to get America and destroying Israel. There was no Palestinian people before 1964. And again, what I like to explain to people is the Judea and Samaria, what people call the West Bank, it was under Jordanian control between 1948 and 1967 for 19 years. First of all, those people were called Jordanians.
Yeah.
They didn't call themselves Palestinians.
Last
Second of all,
names were also Jordanians, just to interrupt you here. The last names were mostly in Jordanians, like in Gaza, the last names mostly are Egyptian.
it's correct, right?
Same
Because
thing.
there
Yeah.
is no Palestinian.
Yeah.
It's a fake
Yeah.
identity.
Hmm.
And then so no, not once during those 19 years of 1948 to 1967 was there a call for the establishment of a state called Palestine. Don't people think that if there were real people called Palestinians who they want their own state, they would have called for their own state during the 19 years that they were under the Jordanians, and the majority of the population in Jordan are actually Arabs that were living in the British Mandate of Palestine who ran away in 1948. So their family, friends, cousins, why couldn't they just, hey, listen, where are we? We want our own state. No, there was never, not even one call, not from the world, not from the Arabs, not from the Arab world, because the whole cause called Palestine is about destroying Israel and using this fake invented identity called Palestinians. It's not about this land belonging to them. It doesn't belong to them. They're Arabs from all over the Middle East who then came here over the past few hundred years, basically, or even 200 years, majority came. So going to 1967, again, bringing back people to the history, Israel did not launch a war in 1967. Syria and Egypt were planning to attack Israel, to destroy Israel. They were clear. They wanted to destroy us and throw us into the sea. The black joke in Israel weeks before the war was who's going to turn off the lights at Ben Gurion Airport? Like Israelis were digging mass graves because they were expecting hundreds of thousands to be killed as we were going to be attacked by Jordan, by Syria and Egypt. The Israeli government at the time pleaded with the king of Jordan, don't join the war. We won't do anything to you. Don't join the war. And yet, what happened? Jordan decided to join the war with Egypt and Syria, thinking that they were going to destroy us, murder us, and take over our land. The world doesn't talk about this. Jews don't talk about this.
Don't
The
know.
only reason
Yeah.
we liberated all of Jerusalem, because again, the old city of Jerusalem was under control of the Jordanian kingdom. The Temple Mount was under the control of Jordanian kingdom. The Israeli government and the army had no plans to fight in Jerusalem, to liberate Jerusalem, or to liberate Judea and Samaria. No plans whatsoever. Only when Jordan joined the war, despite the Israeli government's pleading not to join the war, that then we miraculously beat back the Jordanian army, liberated Jerusalem, liberated all Judea and Samaria, and the Jewish state of Israel didn't know what to do because they did not expect that we would be liberating these ancestral lands. But anyone who reads the Bible, and I challenge everyone, pick up your Bible, pick up Genesis. All of Genesis takes place in Judea and Samaria. Abraham's walking from Beersheba to Hebron and then there's Bethlehem and then this is in Abraham, but others in Jerusalem and then Shiloh and Beit El. All of this, like 90% of the stories in the Bible and Tanakh take place in Judea and Samaria. There was no Tel Aviv in the biblical times. There was no
No.
Haifa. There was Shiloh, there was Beth El, there was Jerusalem, there was Hebron. And Jews today are like, it doesn't belong to us? What do you mean? Of course it belongs to us. And we have to remind ourselves. And Jews were living in Judea and Samaria all these years. There was a Jewish community in Hebron
Yeah.
forever.
How was
Forever.
that population spread? Because like 1967, miraculous. For me, it's all, what I always say is, if you don't want to lose a war, you don't want to risk it, then don't start one. Well, they lost,
Right.
so that's not nice. Israel won miraculously, right? Even in the Netherlands, then some people were dancing in the street. Dutch people were like, because the horror of the Shoah became more known. There was a huge collective guilt hanging around, which is still having an effect. So changed afterwards, of course. But um, how many Arabs were living in the area, and what happened? Then did some of them flee? Did they all stay? How many approximately? What was the attitude? Like, we want to confiscate this land in exchange for peace, right? How many years did we hear that? Right? What happened in those 67, 68 years? Did many flee? Did they stay? What are the numbers? The numbers are also interesting.
So I'm going to look these numbers up for you 1 second. I know some of the numbers, not all of them. And I am looking right now. So there were around between 20 to 30,000 Arabs who lived in Hebron in 1948. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, when Israel liberated Hebron in the 1967 miraculous Six-Day War, guess what? The population was still around 30,000. It didn't grow.
Why
Okay?
is that?
Today, don't know, but life wasn't good under Jordan. People weren't going there. And people I imagine were leaving. Who wanted to live there? Life wasn't good. There weren't that many Arabs living in Judea and Samaria before 1948. A lot of them came because they lost their homes in the War of Independence, and then they went to live in refugee camps in Judea and Samaria, or they went to Jordan. There weren't that many people living here. Again, there were no Palestinians. They didn't exist. They were just Arabs, nomads living, and the cities were very small. But what's very telling is today the population of Hebron is 200,000. Why is it 200,000? It's grown tremendously because it's the economic juggernaut of Judea and Samaria for the Arabs. I mean, under the years that it's living close to Jews, they do business with Jews. They didn't exist here for decades. Between
So
1948 and 1967, it remained 30,000 people, around
the
30,000 to
the,
20,000
the number of two today is like 200,000 Arabs living there
in Hebron, we're talking
in
about. Yes.
Hebron, yeah. And how many Jews?
Today, oh, not many. One second, I'll look that up for you as
You don't
well.
dare. You don't dare. Yeah.
Yeah, no, very, very few.
Yeah. Because it's
We,
dangerous.
we we've returned there. Thank God it's not as dangerous as it used to be. But I'm gonna look up how many Jews live in Hebron and Kiryat Arba, because that's the Jewish community right next to Hebron today. You're getting live information. So there are around 10,000 Jews who live in Hebron today. But remember, back in 1967, between 1948 and 1967, there were zero Jews. And not only 1948, there used to be a thriving Jewish community in Hebron before 1929.
Yeah. Tell
Again,
what happened
there was
then.
a continuous, right? There was a continuous Jewish population in Hebron because it's one of our holiest cities. We always had Jews living there forever. But 1929, the Muslims were incited to kill us
Yeah.
because they were told, oh, the Jews are taking over Al-Aqsa, the same thing they use today. Nothing's changed in the Muslim world. And they massacred their Jewish neighbors. 67 Jews were massacred. And you're talking about neighbors and friends and co-workers. And they used to go to each other's weddings and bar mitzvahs and Arab
Yeah. Like
celebrations.
October 7th in the
Exactly. So what Jews
South.
don't understand is we're dealing with a different mentality. What Westerners don't understand. This is the Middle East. This
Yeah.
is Islam. It's a totally different mentality. They can act like your friends, but you can't trust them. So, in 1929, after this massacre, we didn't have to leave Hebron, but the British, who were in charge at the time, it was the British mandate, they said, "Oh, we don't want to protect the Jews." They basically allowed the Muslims to massacre us. I mean, there are stories, and I've read eyewitness accounts of that massacre in 1929, of British officers riding around on their horses as the Muslims were running around house to house, massacring the Jews, and the British officers did nothing to stop them because they were
Why
there.
not? Why not?
Let's just say there was sympathy for the Muslims and no sympathy for the Jews by many of the British officers and soldiers. I don't know how many people know this, but Jordan, the Jordanian army that then fought us in 1948, after the British pulled out officially by international decree, they then trained the Jordanian army to fight us. So
Yeah.
the British weren't really our friends. They acted, I mean, again, they gave up their positions to the Muslim Arabs before 1948. So we were fighting not just against the Muslims, but against the British who were helping the Muslims and trying to stop us. So everyone who today takes in and swallows the narrative of the poor Palestinians and it's the Jews or the occupiers, guys, we're the biggest underdog in the world. We're a tiny people in the world. We're a tiny country, smaller than the state of New Jersey. And each and every war has been totally miraculous because God's helping us. And we're still here surviving and thriving. And we don't cry to the world. We say, oh my God, we're back and we're happy and we want to make life good for us. We want to help the world and we want to help even the Arabs, even though they're trying to kill us. We're like the most craziest people trying to help, trying to make peace with people who continue to kill us and whitewash them, even though they're terrorists and they're always trying to terrorize us. We give away the Gaza Strip to people who tried to kill us and even Gaza. Gaza Jews were living forever. I don't know how many of your viewers sing Shabbat songs at the Shabbat table, but I like to tell this to everyone all the time. There's a song that we sing every Shabbat at our Shabbat table, sung by Jews all over the world, and the name of the song is Yaribon. Yaribon was written by a rabbi who was named Rabbi Yisrael Najara, who was the chief rabbi of Gaza City in the 1600s. How many Jews know that?
No,
And there
I
are
didn't
rabbis
know
from the
either.
Talmud. Rabbis from the Talmud lived in Gaza. Again, the
Yeah.
first Arabs only stepped foot here hundreds of years after we were already living here, thousands of years after we were already living here. And so people today believe the lie that Jews have no connection to Gaza. The Jews have more of a connection to Gaza than Arabs who mostly came from Egypt or from other places. They have no history in Gaza. They're no Gazan people. They happen to be living there because the Arab world wants them to live there to be the beachhead in order to attack Israel and terrorize us all the time. They're waiting to leave. They can't wait to leave. They want a better life somewhere else because there's nothing left for them right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
And this is also the Western way of thinking, like, well, that happens, but that doesn't mean that you should kick out or should kick them out, even though you have historical rights there. It doesn't mean that you will take over and then the whole apartheid joke, right? It's a sinister joke, I would say. But it is amazing how deep that is ingrained and that there is so much sympathy and empathy for this situation in favor of the Arabs and blind to all the other atrocities in the world committed by or at Arabs or Christians. It's bizarre to me that there is such a energy about it, over it, that also blocks logical thinking.
yeah, I like to point out to people when I go abroad and I speak in communities and organizations. One question that the Jewish people, especially in America, but all over the world, have not been explained by any Jewish organization, any Jewish rabbi, any Jewish educational organization, is explaining why, after the worst tragedy ever to befall the Jewish people since the Holocaust, the tragedy of October 7th, did Jew hatred spike?
Yeah, the next day already.
The next day, right? The same day, New York City and other streets, people are celebrating the massacre of Jews at the Nova Music Festival. And then it just grew from there on college campuses. Nobody in the Jewish world is explaining to the Jews why the spike after a day that we as a people should have received sympathy. No one's
And
explaining that. So the whole Jewish people right now, they're orphans, focused on donating money to fight anti-Semitism when you can't fight something if you don't understand why it's happening.
yeah,
And without going into my whole talk, which that would be a whole hour, people have to understand if people started hating on us on October 7th and October 8th, and that hate has grown since, in the 2.5 years
exponentially.
since, there is an unexplained, irrational hatred of the Jew that spikes when the Jew is viewed as being weak and when we're down and being killed. They see, because the Jewish state of Israel represents strength. People don't want to see the Jewish people strong. They like to see us weak. So when they see the strong Jewish state of Israel killed and massacred and looked weak, a successful massacre of Jews in Israel, that makes them happy and that encourages them to grow their hatred towards us. It's irrational. And again, I don't know how old your viewership is, but I like to tell
Every age.
people
Every
every
age.
age. I like
Yeah.
to explain to people, right? I was born in the 70s, right? So I grew up in the 70s, 80s, 90s. My youth lived in America. And even then, I was explaining that growing up in the 70s and 80s, we were living in what I explain as the post-Holocaust bubble that was going to burst.
Yeah.
Because before the Holocaust, Jews always lived with Jew-hating anti-Semitism. Everywhere in Europe, in the Middle East, we were either second-class citizens, treated differently, pogroms. Our ancestors, grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-great, they all lived their lives with the knowledge that there was Jew hatred they had to live with.
Yeah.
Every single day somehow impacted their lives.
Yeah.
We grew up in a time when the Western world was so shocked at how their Western mindset, the most cultured society of Western world, Germany of Beethoven and Bach, right? They
Mozart.
massacred us.
Yeah.
They had a plan to annihilate us, and they stood there watching and enjoying it. They taught their children to enjoy killing Jews. So the Western world went into shock. Oh my God, our thinking, our Western thinking brought about Nazism and annihilating and massacring 6 million Jews. So that's when all of a sudden anti-Semitism became taboo.
Hmm.
What we're experiencing today is not an anomaly. Any Jew out there thinking, oh, I can't wait till we go back to normal without Jew hatred, forget about it.
There's
This
also
is
that
the new
element,
normal.
sorry to interrupt, but there's also that element of Holocaust education was supposed to prevent or solve. No, you're not going to love Jews suddenly because they have suffered so much. That is not, they're the libels, the blood libels, the prejudice. It's so deeply ingrained in the thinking. It's really inherited. I have a great example of that. I've mentioned it before, but it is a very typical example. One of my best friends when I was 21, one day we were walking in Holland and she said to me, "You don't have those, you're the first Jew that I met or meet.
Well,
And you don't, Jewish person, but you don't have those negative Jewish traits." So you
hmm.
see, she never met one, but she knew about the negative traits.
Yeah,
So I,
most people spreading Jew hatred today, especially online, most of them have never met a Jew.
no,
They don't know us from a hole in the wall, but it's because of what it's just naturally okay to hate the Jew.
yeah,
And again, and unfortunately, today, it's not naturally okay to hate a black. It's not naturally okay to hate a gay person,
not
but it's
anymore.
naturally okay to hate a Jew.
Yeah,
And this is the nature of the world that existed before the Holocaust that's
yeah,
come back. And even what I like to tell people is like, even with the fear of seeing the Jew hatred grow, and especially in America today, this is nothing compared to what our ancestors dealt with for thousands of years.
yeah,
We're still living pretty with whatever Jew hatred's taking place in New York City or Los Angeles or in London or Toronto or in Sydney or in Paris. It's nothing compared to what our ancestors had to deal with day in, day out
yeah.
discrimination and violence against them for being a Jew. So we're still the most blessed generation, but people have to internalize it's not getting better. It's just going to get worse. And I don't want to depress people with that because I want to inspire people. And the inspiration is we're living in a generation that we're back as sovereign in our ancestral homeland, something that our ancestors did not have. So when they were being
They are
persecuted
not
wherever
different.
they
Yeah,
were,
they're not
they
different.
didn't have there wasn't something to inspire them or to go to or to move away and get away from them. They were stuck there forever to deal with that hatred, violence, pogroms, etc. We're blessed to live in a day that I don't want people to run away from where they're living to come to Israel. I want people to be happy about coming home to live in Israel, not
Mhm.
because of anti-Semitism and violence, etc.
Yeah.
But at least we're growing up and we're bringing raising our children and grandchildren in a day and age where, yes, we the Jewish people are once again sovereign back in our ancestral homeland, the only indigenous people in the whole of humanity to have been successful in being able to do that. So we have such an inspiring story. There's so much truth out there that fights off all the lies, but the daily news cycle only puts out the lies. So too many Jews believe that we're occupiers. No, the Muslims are the biggest occupiers in all of humanity because
Yes,
they
40,
started
what is
in
it, 54
Arabia.
countries? For 54 countries?
Right. They started in Muhammad started in Arabia with a small gathering of converts to Islam.
Yeah,
I mean, again, people don't, this isn't even ancient history. Egypt used to be a Christian country just
yeah,
like 100 some odd years ago.
yeah,
Lebanon 40, 50 years ago was a Christian country. What happens when the Muslims come and immigrate in mass? They persecute the Christians, they persecute all the minorities. Then there's civil war, the country becomes horrible, and the Muslims take over and make life horrible for anyone. So, anyone who wants to know what's going to happen in Paris or in London or in Toronto or in New York, if they don't wake up and realize that this mass immigration or migration of Muslims it's going to make them turn into exactly what Cairo is in Egypt or Beirut is in Lebanon. That's the future. I mean, it's so simple. We're not talking ancient history,
but there
but
is an
people,
additional issue there. That is the Waqf, right? That law, that Islamic law, that if Muslims conquer a land or buy it, whatever it is, they're not allowed to give it back. And I think that is a big blockage in originally for the two-state solution that they totally don't want to share the country. They want it all or nothing. Aside from the ideological points of view, but the law from the Waqf, you do not return, you don't, but you conquer even by war, You keep it. See Africa, almost the entire African continent is so like 54 Muslim countries. So that law, that's also Sharia law that people don't realize and don't know and don't think. So I would like to go back, with your permission, to Judea and Samaria, because the prejudice there, because that's usually indicated as occupied, right? What is the situation from 1967? What happened? The also the ABC areas. What can you enlighten us about that?
So again, 1967, in a defensive war that Israel did not start and did not want to fight in,
And
but
one.
because we were attacked by Egypt, Syria, and Jordan, we end up liberating Jerusalem and all of Judea and Samaria. There were zero Jews living in Judea and Samaria in 1967. Zero. It was Judenrein, which shouldn't make sense. Like, why should it be okay that Jews be forbidden to live like where our ancestors lived,
And
where the Bible takes
why
place?
didn't there Jews? Where were there no Jews living there? Why?
Because Jordan expelled all of us, all the Jews who were here in 1948, Jordan expelled. They didn't want Jews,
Exactly. That's also
right?
forgotten
Anytime
about.
the
Yeah.
Muslims take over, they expel all the Jews.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there were zero Jews living here in 1967 when we liberated. Today, there are over 500,000 Jews once again resettling and living in our ancestral lands in Judea and Samaria. And again, Judea and Samaria, it was barren hilltops. People like to tell the lie, oh, we kicked the Arabs out of their homes and then took over their homes. No. Even if I invite everyone listening to contact me when you come and visit Israel, I will show you. I will show you the hills. I will show you the communities. I will show you my own personal recollections. I can even show you a video I made about the history of my community, Efrat. I was here in 1980 as a 7-year-old child for the groundbreaking ceremony of the city of Efrat. It was barren hills. They weren't Jews, they weren't Arabs, there was nothing. And we built cities and towns over these barren hills in Judea and Samaria that today we have over 500,000 Jews once again living in our ancestral homelands. And hopefully soon there are going to be over 1 million Jews living here within the next decade. I'm sure within the next decade we'll have over 1 million Jews living here. There's going to be a massive amount of building in Judea and Samaria. So we're back home. And this is the way it's supposed to be. And my message to all Arabs, you want to live in peace with us? Well, halan v'salan, as you say in Arabic. You're welcome to live in peace with us. But if you raise your children to kill us, then I don't know about you. I know you live in Florida. I don't know if you knew someone wants to kill you and openly says they want to kill you, you want them living next door to you?
Of course
In the
not.
next building? In your
Of course not.
community?
Of course, that's all
No.
so clear. No, no, no. So
Same thing here.
how many,
Anyone who wants to kill us shouldn't be allowed to live next to us. Let them live in a country that believes in that jihadi Muslim ideology. Let them live Syria, Iran, Iraq, who knows? But not next to us where they
yeah.
could be close to implementing their ideology.
So how is it with the ABC territories? How is it with the settler violence? That is so. What are your viewpoints on that? What's going on? Even in Haaretz, I wish that a newspaper would disappear, but they don't do a good job either there. What is your view on that?
All right, so I'll explain A, B, and C. So unfortunately, the Oslo peace process, right, which I was here in Israel protesting against. I knew it wouldn't bring peace. I knew it would bring war and bloodshed and terror. Well, that separated all of Judea and Samaria into three areas, A, B, and C. A is area that's totally under the control of the Palestinian Authority. B is area that the Palestinian Authority has municipal control over the population, but Israel has security control. And Area C, where Israel is totally in control, where all the Jews live in Area C. Over the years, the Palestinian Authority, with massive funding, billions and billions of funding from the European Union and European states, and again, you don't have to don't trust me for anything, but Edwin Black, the investigative journalist, wrote a whole book on this, on the research of of Europe, European Union, and European states, funding the illegal land grab of Israeli Jewish land in Judea and Samaria and Area C over the years, and illegal Arab building over these years. I mean, again, I'd be happy to show anyone. And I mean, again, Judea and Samaria is beautiful, and there's so many fun things to do. And I'd also show you this. Over the years, with the European funding, they've been building their homes up to right next to our communities to stop us from being able to expand our communities. So
What's
there's
the
been this.
book of Edwin Black before you continue? Do you know
Oh,
the name?
it's called EU funding of illegal Palestinian settlements in Area C. So it's a report.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Okay. So anyone can Google it and see if they can read it. So it's documented and researched. They have been stealing our land for years. So, and unfortunately, Israeli governments, ever since the Oslo Accords, our government, our army has been neutered. Because the world's always pressuring us to make peace. The world's always making us out to be the occupier, us to be the bad guy. And if it's not our land, so who cares if they steal it from us? Then it's their land to steal back. So you have Jews fed these lies in the media and Jewish media every single day that it's Arab land and the Jews are using violence in this land. No, the Arabs have been using violence and terror against us every single day and stealing our land. And finally, we have a generation of young Jews and hilltop youth who are out there settling the land, mostly Area C, and they started to go into Area B. Because again, the Palestinian Authority is an enemy. It funds terrorism. I don't know why our leaders do not tell the Jewish people, do not tell Israel, do not tell the world, the Palestinian Authority is an enemy. It funds terrorism. It funds textbooks teaching its children to kill Jews. It funds television programs to teach their children to kill Jews.
But
The
that is
Palestinian Authority
known.
is the enemy.
That is known. That is spoken about. That is
But
known.
nobody, right, but nobody, but it's an enemy. It's
Yeah.
not only should they not be considered a peace partner to make
No.
peace with, they have to be considered an enemy. And unfortunately, our army doesn't act like an enemy because our government still today, the most right-wing government, still hasn't made the change to deal with the Palestinian Authority as an enemy. So we go after individual terrorists. So you hear the news, oh, we took out this terrorist, we arrested that terrorist. You don't stop an enemy by just taking out one soldier at a time.
I
You have
get
to
it.
take out the enemy.
How would you like to see that change? What is needed for you to change
So the
that?
change is happening. What you're being told is settler violence. First of all, 99% of the time are lies
Mm-hmm.
because it's Jews being attacked and then defending themselves.
And then
I
is
don't
the
know what
video. Yeah.
right? But I don't know if you remember, there's like a picture that's used. I think it was Honest Reporting that used it to help explain all the media lies against Israel. What the public is shown is a picture of an Israeli soldier like running after a child, right? But then they show what's the bigger picture? The bigger picture is that a terrorist is running after this child and the Israeli soldier is trying to protect the child. But the
From the
media only shows you this part of the story it wants to show you to make the Jews in Israel look bad. So 99% of these stories of settler violence are settlers having to defend themselves and hilltop youth having to defend themselves because the Arabs are stealing our land, are stealing our crops, are poisoning our sheep. And those stories aren't getting out to the public because it
yeah,
doesn't fit the narrative, even the
yeah,
Jewish narrative, the
yeah.
Jewish media narrative.
It's
Because
very, very frustrating. Very,
right.
very.
So every once in a while, yeah, there are some people who might use violence, and then it's up to the authorities to take care of them. But there's no settler violence. You're talking about us dealing with Arab Muslim terror against us that shoots babies like Shall Have It Pass, that murders girls in their beds like Halal Yafeh, that murders whole families like the Fogel family in their beds that does the October 7th, and that all these headlines we're being told to feel bad about being Jewish and about Israel because there's some settler youth using violence. No, it's something that's being blown totally out of proportion, mostly all lies. And I am proud of these youth out there who are basically going back to being shepherds in order to help take
Courageous.
back our land in Judea and Samaria and one, stop the Arabs from illegally stealing our land and have them run away because they see we're coming back. I want that to happen. I want those Arabs who've illegally stolen our land to run back to their villages and not take more land and not come and build houses up next to my fence and endanger my life. Again, I live in the community of Efrat. This isn't something to laugh at. I have a friend who his family was shot at by an Arab who illegally built a house outside our fence, and from that illegally built Arab house, shot into the living room of my friend. How is that something acceptable in the Jewish world when we're told to be upset about settler violence and not to be upset about the terror we're dealing with from a Palestinian Authority and an Islamic jihad mentality that wants to destroy us and teaches their children to destroy us, yet we ignore that? So
Yeah.
this is more of the big picture for the
Yeah,
people
yeah,
are
yeah.
not given across.
Yeah, 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 yeah. How do you see the future, the coming 10 years for Judea and Samaria?
The future is bright. We are building, more Jews are living. As Arabs see that we're back and acting as a true sovereign and no longer apologetic and no longer appeasing, most of them are going to go away because they're not going to want to live in a good, in a, but seeing that they're losing because it's not their land. They know it's not their land. Their purpose is not to set up, listen, this isn't me talking. There's a politically left Israeli politician by the name of Einat Wilf,
Yeah,
who was part of the Labor Party, a left-wing party in Israel. She herself
yeah.
has says, and Google her and see it.
Yeah, I know.
The
I read her
whole
book.
Palestinian national identity is about destroying the Jewish state of Israel. They don't care about building up a state for themselves. They're not interested.
No.
They're only interested in destroying the Jewish state of Israel.
Yeah,
So once you understand that,
yeah,
then you understand that the way we have peace in the future is by us being unapologetically proud about being back home and settling our homeland and building more communities and strengthening our communities in Judea and Samaria. And when that happens, those who want to kill us, either we're going to stop them or they're going to run away. And those Arabs who remain will only be the ones who truly want to live in peace with us, because otherwise they won't be able to live with
yeah.
us. So I am totally bullish and positive about our future. I don't know whether it's going to be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, but the trajectory of the Jewish people in Israel is totally positive. We want to be able to build millions of homes for millions of Jews from all over the world, not to have to deal with anti-Semitism, but to be able to live here in Israel in their ancestral homeland and enjoy the benefits and the beauty and the happiness that we experience here, even through all the insanity and evil that we're living with.
Avi, these are beautiful words to end this with. And thank you so very, very much for your inspirational information, passion, and love for the country. I actually should have put ready a bottle of wine. I only buy wine from Judean Hills, and I should have shown it to you. That's my little thing. So thank you so very much. All the best. And also thank you for serving the IDF with you yourself as a reservist, right? And your three sons, daughters too.
Yes.
Daughters
Yes. No,
too.
we have my wife and I have four boys, so two of them have served in this war on and off together with me as well. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing, amazing. Thank you so very much. And
Thank you,
thank you for
Carla, and thank
watching
you.
it.
And anyone who wants this on a daily basis, they can go to pulseofisrael.com and
Yeah,
sign up to our daily video newsletter, and I look forward to being in touch with them.
super nice. I will put the links underneath. And thank you again for watching. And please subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of interviews. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Shalom.
We have a small request, and you probably know what it is about. But we have this very interesting situation that 91% of our returning viewers do not subscribe, but they are returning. So they must like it. And that would be great if that is you. If you will be so kind to subscribe, eventually leave a like if you like the video, or even leave a comment, that's even nicer, or have a request. That would be great to hear from you. But please support our work by subscribing. Thank you so very much. That would be such a favor to us.